Another series loss for the Chicago Cubs. At some point, they got to start stacking some wins together.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Alongside Sam Olber, I'm Matt Cozy. Sam and I are lifelong fans, taking our passion into discussion with you on all things Cubs. And unfortunately, I'm guessing Sam gave a thumbs down or even a double thumbs down. Today's episode is presented by FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. We're going to go around the NL Central later, including remaining strength of schedule for the Cubs, Brewers, Cardinals, and Reds. The Kyle Tucker trade staring us flat in the face this weekend, but Tucker continues to shine. We'll discuss that trade. And we start with the Cubs losing 2 out of 3 to the Astros over the weekend, 7-4 loss Friday,
Wasn't that close?
12-3 win Saturday, and 2-0 loss Sunday. Northsiders are now 49-35 on the season and will be at least one game ahead of the Brewers for first place in the NL Central. They're in the 10th inning, actually, as we record here, as you get a little behind the scenes. And let's begin with the most recent game, Sam, on Sunday, because both teams were scoreless until the bottom of the 5th when Jose Altuve, maybe Cooperstown bound.
Sure.
Almost 15 years in the big leagues. 2-out, 2-run homer off Jameson Taillon, who threw 30 pitches in the first inning, was removed after giving up that home run. And I think it should have been Brazier or Presley instead of Taillon there.
Yeah, I was very upset in the moment, tweeted about it. Hard for me to have that be the headline because they ended up scoring no runs. But yeah, look, I don't understand. I don't understand. You praise Flexen for being able to go 4 innings on Friday. You have a blowout win on Saturday, so you don't have to use a lot of your bullpen. You have an off day Monday. Your team is in a little bit of a struggle. This would be a really significant game to get. And it's not like Taillon was cruising along. He pitched better today, but he was at, 105 pitches? I tweeted out before the Paredes AB. I was surprised that he stayed in to face Paredes. He got Paredes, then he got a deep fly ball off the bat of Myers, and then Altuve got him. Now, it was a soft home run. It's not a home run anywhere else but there. But I'd like to see a little bit more aggression. But, you just said this off the air, and I want to say it because it's the smartest thing to say.
And I saw you off the air this weekend. Actually.
Yeah, no, we had a great time. It really was pleasant. Maybe we could get into that on the off-day episode. You just said it perfectly. Time will tell about Council's approach and Murphy's approach, because when you watch the Brewers, they always, every time I look up, Uribe's pitching, McGill's pitching, Myers is pitching. And our guys, it seems like we're so calculated, so concerned about what does it matter if you go a little bit early there? Okay, guess what? If the game goes extras and you have to burn Flexen, you can make a move. There's an off day tomorrow. Time will tell in the long term if it works out or not. I thought that was just a time to get Taillon out of there. He's really had a bad couple of starts. He hung in there today. He battled for the team. But ultimately, Matt, they didn't score. And that's the story. And they didn't score because the lefty pitched. And at some point, we're going to talk. I really did some research during the game on that.
Well, let's get to that in a couple minutes. Just want to get to their big opportunity in the top of the 7th.
Absolutely.
First and second, no outs. Michael Busch pinch hits for veteran Justin Turner. Busch, I blink, he pops out.
Bad at bat.
Then they go pinch hitter again to Vidal Brujan for John Birdie. These two dudes who don't ever play really. They make a couple cameos a week.
Yep.
Brujan strikes out. And then Happ strikes out quickly, rally over, and that was pretty much
the ball game.
The game, Sam.
And I thought Council pinch hitting Brujan for Birdie there was an eye up to Jed saying, can I get some help? Because
I like that theory. That's good.
Because at the end of the day, I like what Turner could offer with runners in scoring position. He just hasn't been good enough. And for your bench to be Turner, Birdie, and Brujan right now, with, let's be honest, a third baseman that's not hitting anyway, although he had a better series this weekend. That's a problem. That bench is a problem. We've talked about the margins ad nauseum with this team. They've done a better job with their bullpen this year for sure, but this bench is awful. It's awful. Their bench to carry Vidal, Brujan, and John Birdie, who are extremely redundant as players.
Basically the whole season.
They do the same things well and the same things poor. I prefer to keep Birdie. That's just me. But
okay.
At some point, you got to upgrade that. And, it's not even one of the reasons they struggle so much versus lefties, let alone the situation you're talking about, is because you use your bench against lefties. They've got to get more depth on their team. They've got to get some guys that can hit left-handed pitching, some guys that can pinch hit late, because, Pete Crow-Armstrong had a rough road trip. He had a rough road trip. That he's 23 years old. That's going to happen. You can't just rely on these guys to be great all the time. Tucker had a big trip, and you were able to get 3 out of 7, which, to be honest, after they lost the first 2, actually seemed like a decent result. But it's their bench is a problem, Matt, and I thought it was showcased in the inning that you're discussing.
So what kind of timestamp, Sam, are we talking about here with lefties? Because April and May were fine. They were even pretty good against them. Yep. But really, at this point, it's a totally team against right-handers and just mighty struggles against southpaws.
I have every left-handers line starting May 24th. I believe it's 10 guys. Would you like to hear it?
Yeah.
Andrew, and I'm going to give you the results of the game as well.
Please.
Andrew Abbott, 5 2/3, 1 earned. Cubs lose. Excuse me, and I apologize to this guy, a gentleman with the last name of Palmquist.
Yes, I was at that game.
5 innings, 2 earned. Cubs win that game.
Okay. I'm starting wins and losses, by the way.
Abbott, 7 shutout. Cubs lose. Lodolo, 6 shutout. Cubs win. Gore, 7 shutout. Cubs lose. Skubal, 7 2/3, 1 earned. Cubs lose. Luzardo, 6 innings, 1 earned. Cubs lose. Heaney, 6 innings, 3 earned. Cubs win. Liberatore, 7 innings, 2 earned. Cubs lose. Walter, 6 innings, 1 earned. Cubs lose. Valdez, 7 shutout. Cubs lose. The last 11 guys that they faced, they have not done serious damage. Every single lefty besides Palmquist, because he just didn't go 6, is having a quality start or better against the Cubs from the left side. It's not a hard fix. It's not easy to figure out what the problem is. You have 4 stud hitters on this team. Suzuki, Tucker, Crow-Armstrong, and Bush. Half those guys can't hit lefties or don't play against lefties, and you have nobody that is just, this guy mashes them. Go get a lefty masher. It's not that hard. Justin Turner, his club presence, like the guy. Know he's done a lot. Club presence isn't worth it. Get a lefty masher on this team.
Absolutely. And they have to. That's become so clear just in the last, I would say, 7 to 10 days. But as you outline that stretch, which is almost a month now, 3-8 in those games, really that game against Skubal is where I'm charting some of the more ups and downs for the Cubs as well. And because overall, since that time frame, the Cubs are under 500, and
some of those wins. Some of those wins, Matt, like this, they actually beat the Reds, but they got shut out by Lodolo. They got to the guy after him.
Sure, and we'll get to their June record later in the show, and really how the other teams, especially the Brewers and Reds, have been playing this past month, and why the division has been clamped down. But for Cubs starters this weekend, Sam, Horton roughed up Friday. Ray better Saturday after, a rough June for him. I liked, seeing them crush the Astros Saturday night.
Yeah.
But when you look back on this series, you do wonder, in what seemed like the most least winnable game entering the 3 games, what could have been on Sunday, all things considered. Again, they're 49-35, but when the team below you in the standings is 20 plus wins over the last 5 weeks, they've caught up for sure. All right, what else from this weekend?
I think you summarized it perfectly. Horton really struggled. Ray and Tyone were serviceable, but I thought really Sunday's game all the needs and issues were on display. And, I don't understand how much I don't know how much longer they could wait to address these.
And we'll get to that throughout the week as well, including a possible bigger deal with the Pirates, as multiple Pirates have now been connected to the Cubs. Cubs made a big trade in December with the Astros. That was staring down at us this weekend. We get into that, centered on Kyle Tucker, but also the couple Astros as well, right after this.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburn at the beach. I actually watched a little soccer Sunday morning. The greatest athlete I've ever seen, Lionel Messi, took the pitch for Inter Miami against the European champion PSG. And I've never seen Messi that big of an underdog before. I believe PSG closed on FanDuel at about minus 600. Thought it was a little disrespectful. It wasn't. It was embarrassing. It was 4-0 before you could blink, and then PSG called off the dogs. I don't like seeing Messi get punished on the soccer field like that. I didn't enjoy that game, and I wish I bet on Paris Saint-Germain. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets. If your first bet wins, open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started.
All right, the Kyle Tucker trade from December was on display this weekend, and we don't need to learn more about this, Sam, but I thought this weekend, especially on Saturday, he definitely, again proved why he's a ridiculous talent. I know he's been skittish in right field, but everything else has been elite. 83 games now. He's slashing 291, 395, 537. Third in baseball in OBP, fourth in OPS, sixth in walks, 10th in stolen bases, 18th in homers. Last 14 games, he's hitting 377. This is going to be the talk of a lot of shows, I think, Monday morning, about this trade. And I have some measuring sticks in terms of trade worth. This segment for sure. And of course, it was a large cost to acquire him. We've known that for the last 6+ months.
Right.
But did you come away from this weekend with any feelings one way or the other about this trade that has been played up now, especially after the two teams played each other?
Smith is everything as advertised, with spring training, and obviously hindsight's 2020, but I'd trade for Kyle Tucker 100 times out of 100. You just wish that they traded a different guy. And by all accounts, they could have traded Shaw, but it's early. We'll have to see what happens. I mean, it's early things. I have a pretty good, I know this probably will surprise people because I'm not like this with games, but when it comes to players, I have a pretty good ability. Like I've kind of moved on from it. I really don't care all that much about it. Was it a little bit eye-rolling how good Paredes and Smith were this weekend? I thought Paredes won the Astros the game Sunday with his long ABs and forcing Tyone to throw a lot of pitches and all that stuff. Yeah, it was annoying, but it is what it is. If the Cubs can find a way, it all comes down to extending Tucker. If the Cubs if the Cubs are able to do that, and Cam Smith turns into Kyle Tucker, then great. We got Kyle Tucker and you got another Kyle Tucker. But if you can't, and then you especially don't make the playoffs or win the division this year, now you're in a situation that's pretty dire. But we already knew that going into the series, so right. I wouldn't call that a big takeaway from me. My big takeaway from this series is the Cubs got to get better. That's my takeaway. I'm not. I don't. Right. And everybody. I got so many texts from the Sox. Because Sox fans have nothing to do with their time anymore. Right. They pretend they're not Sox fans anymore, but they still do the Cubs stuff and getting tweets of stuff. Look at that Cam Smith homer. This could be historic. It's like, don't you have enough to worry about in your ball club? Sure. Well,
yeah. Cam Smith looks like he's going to be pretty legit.
Yeah, I agree.
He just got drafted last summer. He's having this type of
and credit the Cubs at least for drafting him.
A little bit, sure.
Just wish they knew what they had, maybe.
So. Because Paredes and Smith, especially, with Wisniewski injured. Okay, so you have these two guys who are really impactful everyday players, likely playoff team, possible World Series contender.
Right.
But my thing is, if the Cubs are able to sign Tucker, this conversation is in the recycling.
100%.
It's immediately gone. We'll never hear about it again. And if we do, that's on you if you decide to do it.
100%.
The trade is, if they're able to sign him, the trade is worth it. We already know this. I think if they make the Final Four, the trade is worth it. Anything below that, you're starting to stretch yourself a little bit. They really need to make the playoffs.
Oh, well, yeah. Then you're
bordering. For as much as I'm a live in the moment guy, and it's possible the trade is worth it as you experience it right now in real time. Yeah, I'm soaking it in, but I don't think so. I think there needs to be specific results that occur on the baseball field. And if they make the Final Four beyond, I really don't think this is going to last much beyond this year. I get the conversation. I get the talking points. I get that Paredes and Smith have been really good.
But Paredes wouldn't have been good here. But Paredes wouldn't have been good here.
Too.
He wouldn't have been the way I
He's really only good in Houston.
Yeah, or places with really short lines that are favorable to pull. Like Tampa's another good place for him.
He had a ridiculous homer this weekend. What was it? Literally like 2 or 1 park out of 30 would have been homeless.
It's not a good. It wasn't a good fit for him. We knew that. We knew that.
He was horrible last year.
Yeah, we knew that part of it. So I agree with everything you said.
Also, in terms of Paredes, Sam, do you look at it like it's Christopher Morell for Tucker? And Morell's been awful.
Yeah, I mean, either way, I'm not. The Smith is the headline. That's the part that matters. And you said everything right. You got to have a deep run this year, or you could end this right now if you extend them tomorrow. You could come back and delete the episode. I mean, David Kaplan is the only guy in Chicago sports media that I've seen that really feels good about this. I don't know if I caught his recap yesterday.
Yeah, he thinks the Cubs are going to bring him back.
He really does. He said that it's not the Cubs' choice. I mean, he didn't say it's a done deal or anything, but he's like, it's the reason why they're waiting this long. Tucker's getting a feel for it, but so far he likes it. It's not going to be a case of the Cubs were too cheap, is what he's saying. So if they don't get him, it's because Tucker wants to go somewhere else. And so if that's the case, then why wouldn't it get done? I really don't think Kyle Tucker dislikes it here. Sure, it's a little annoying playing at Wrigley, but it's starting to even out a little bit. And
if Tucker doesn't return to the Cubs, Ricketts won't even be able to walk to the Starbucks and back. You think the pressure's on him now? It's going to be rough sledding for him.
Well, I don't think he's walking a whole lot of places.
Wow.
He's a very wealthy man.
Tucker did a little bit more media circuit this weekend because of his return to Houston. Do you have any updates on your percentage of him coming back?
Yeah. This guy's really difficult to read, and I mean that as a tremendous.
Yeah, he's very even, maybe even more than his manager.
And no, and I at least he shows a little emotion when he pops out. And I mean that as a compliment to Tucker. I really do.
Yes. No.
First of all, I think we gotta get him to the All-Star game starting. We gotta get that done.
And that voting resets and starts Monday.
Yeah, we gotta get him there, guys. We gotta show him why this city. Just if they're not gonna bring him back, make it because the Cubs are too cheap, not because of anything that this city could do. You know what I mean? Make him feel like, he's wanted here, and I think he likes it here. I really do. I do think he likes it here. I think a hot summer would be great for him. Mm-hmm. And any updates to my change? Cap has every time I get to around 10%, Cap gets me back to like 20-25.
Okay, and that's good. That's good.
So,
I'm in the teens right now, maybe 19,
right?
Maybe 18. So,
right.
Yeah, that's going to be something to watch, and maybe we all get surprised that we have to do an emergency show over the All-Star break.
It'd be unbelievable.
As the news breaks in Atlanta at the All-Star game.
Literally.
That Tucker's returning for many, many years.
10 for 475. Get it done.
Great. I would do 10 for 500.
So would I, but, just trying
Coming up next.
Save you some money, Tom.
We go around the NL Central. Don't do that, though, because then the Phillies or Yankees or Red Sox or Dodgers will get them.
Where's my cut, Tom?
We go around the NL Central next. Okay, as we are recording, the Brewers and Rockies game will not end. So, Sam, you could keep us posted on that. The Rockies were down to their last strike and tied it in the top of the ninth. Right now, they're in the 10th inning. Cubs 49-35. Brewers, as of press time here, 47-36. Cardinals 47-38. Reds with a comeback win Sunday over the Padres. They're now 44-40. Folks, the Cubs have flaws. They were on full display in Sunday's loss for sure. But since May 25th, and again, one win more, one loss more, whatever it is for the Brewers. But since May 25th, the Brewers are 22-8. And they're 16-8 in June, awaiting this result. Maybe going to 17-8.
Actually, 25-8 too, if you just want to extend 3 more games, because that 9-game win streak.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Reds 15-10 in June, Cardinals 14-13, but heated up over the last week or so.
Yeah.
Wondering how to pose this question.
Yes.
Are the Brewers a threat that could sustain until late September?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it all depends on Mizorowski for them.
Wow.
I think if he's the guy that he looks like, absolutely. If he hits a wall or gets injured or something like that.
And those two teams are going to the 11th.
Yeah. I think that, look, the division's better than we thought it was going to be. I always have my eyes in the rear view with the Brewers, always. Or should I say, usually it's not the rear view. Usually we're behind them. But
yeah, you're looking up at them.
Yeah,
really.
Usually we're looking up at them. I think they're really good. I just think that. And so, if they pitch, I mean, look what they've been able to do with Priester already. Look what they're able to do with this guy, Colin Patrick. They already got Peralta. Yeah. I just talked about Mizorowski. That's 80% of their rotation. Their bullpen's really, really good. The question is, do they just have enough offense, because they just, they run their way to offense. I'm not as bullish on the Reds as you are. And I'm also not as bullish on the Cardinals, even though they just swept Cleveland, but we'll get a real good look. I thought we were playing some of our worst baseball, and we still were able to split in their ballpark. And now we get them coming to Wrigley for what I think is going to be a huge series next weekend. It's bad news right now with the NL Central. However, I do want to make one pivot. And I don't know how this will be received, but the goal is obviously to win the division. Okay, we know that. The positive part is teams like the Padres, teams like the Mets, teams like the Giants, teams like the Diamondbacks, teams like the Braves that all felt they were kind of locks to be high 80s, low 90s win teams are not that good. I mean, when you do the playoff zoom out, right? The way I do it is I pick a team to make my life easier. So I know the Dodgers are going to win the West. Wrap that up.
Yes.
I picked the Phillies now to just win the East. It's still really close. That's not a smart thing, but just for the sake of the exercise. Sure. Yeah. So then you have 3 spots to fill, right? One spot's probably going to go to an NL East team, but it's not going to be the Braves. So the Mets got to figure their stuff out. You'd think one spot's going to go to the West for the Padres. The Giants are fading quickly. I think they might have just lost a series here on the South side and got beat by the Marlins. The Diamondbacks might be sellers at the deadline. Point I'm trying to make is it was kind of crazy before the year to think that an NL Central team could get a wild card spot. And now it seems more likely than not that could possibly happen.
Absolutely.
So and I'm not trying to say the Cubs should settle for a wild card. I'm not trying to say any of that. I'm just saying that the one positive is of St. Louis, Cincinnati, Milwaukee, they're all good, but they're actually better than a lot of these teams. I mean, Milwaukee right now if the season ended today, they would get the first wild card spot, the first one. So all of this to me is it's a little early. I'm crazy about it. I'm always looking at stuff because I'm not a normal human. But if the Cubs can just stack some wins and maybe we do a rare tease to tomorrow's episode, which is just, you got a team coming in, you got to start stacking wins. Even 4 out of 6 is fine, but this team just hasn't won. They've won 3 in a row recently where they won the last 2 against Pittsburgh and 1 against Milwaukee, but 3 in a row, 4 in a row, 6 out of 8, 10 out of 14, those type of stretches. Start stacking wins because that's how you make all this stuff a moot point. And I just think 11 and 13 is a large enough sample now to go, okay, it's either a blip on the radar. And if it's a blip on the radar, Matt, you prove that by going to stack some wins and making it a blip, or it's a trend and a real problem and maybe more who they are. And only time's going to tell. And I think it starts pretty soon this week.
Well, it does. And we will preview for our next episode, Cubs Guardians, and why the Cubs should have some really good matchups in there, especially with Boyd and Imanaga pitching, and the Guardians, I believe, throwing 3 right-handed pitchers. So we'll get you all that information the next episode. According
4-3 Colorado right now.
What?
4-3 Colorado so far in the top.
Well, they
11.
should keep. Maybe it could be like 9-3 after this inning. According to Tankathon.com.
Oh, I'm excited about this. I'm very glad you did this.
The Brewers have the 3rd toughest schedule remaining in the sports. Can I give you some notables?
Can I guess some? I remember almost have their schedule memorized.
Go ahead.
I know they face the Dodgers 2 more times.
Okay, 6 series. With the Dodgers.
They go to Queen. I think they
6 with the Mets. Correct.
Yeah, Queens. They got 6 left. They still have to play the Braves, but I don't know. They're not very.
I don't have them on.
Yeah, well, because they're not a very good team.
They also play 6 against the.
Yeah, 6
Cardinals.
Against. Oh well, no.
8 against the Cubs.
Yeah, and then they got
3 Padres,
2 San Diego,
Phillies.
Yeah, 2 San Diego. Yeah.
Great slate right there.
Yeah, the Cubs just got to take care of business, man.
They really do. Reds 4th toughest, and then the Cardinals and Cubs right now have it pretty easy. Cardinals 24th, Cubs 26th.
That you just made my day.
Cubs, Tankathon has these games as the Cubs' toughest remaining. 9 Cardinals, 8 Brewers, 3 Yankees, which is to close out the half, and 3 Mets.
We closed out the half against the Yankees in 23.
And 2 years ago, yeah, we did a watch along. I think the very last game of the half.
Yep. That's actually really good.
With the big hit that day.
That's good information.
Thank you.
And it matched my eye test when we spoke.
That's right.
I actually thought the Brewers were. I thought it was the Reds had the toughest. That's what I thought. Just by
the Brewers go to Queens this week.
Yeah, and the Mets are really scuffling. So
right.
It'll be that my theory will be put to test this week with the Cubs and the Brewers, because the Cubs are facing a team really scuffling and the Brewers are facing a team really scuffling. Hopefully my theory is wrong for the Cubs and right for the Brewers, which is you don't like to face good teams that are really struggling, but maybe the Guardians just aren't a good team.
Possible trades, Cubs, Guardians, and a whole lot more this week. 4 episodes this week with the 4th of July holiday.
And I don't usually do this. 2 things. I'll be at the Cub game Thursday night in the bleachers if you'd like to come say hello. And secondly, I'd love for us to get to 15,000 subscribers before July 4th.
That's correct, because our first recording was July 4th, 2022.
Yep.
So we have an anniversary this week as well. This is Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on the Locked On MLB channel on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. He's Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy. This is Locked On Cubs.